Hey everybody, welcome back to another TechBiz tutorial. This is for some of my advanced web design students. We're going to be spending this term learning how to use Dreamweaver. So some of you have had some HTML background, HTML and CSS background. So this tutorial is going to be a little bit of a review for you. Some of you don't have any HTML or CSS background. So this will be kind of an intro to you. So if there's something new in here that you don't understand, just kind of follow along with this tutorial. I'm not going to go super in depth with all of these concepts, but as we go through this term and start learning how to apply these things more in depth with Dreamweaver, then we'll talk more in depth about it later. This is just kind of a basic start so you can start learning some basic HTML and some basic CSS, while we also learn how to just do the code in Dreamweaver. And again, we'll get all into the features of Dreamweaver as this term goes on, but for now this is just kind of our introduction to get our feet wet with this. So I opened up Adobe Dreamweaver. I have the latest version installed, so if I look on here, this is actually version for Adobe Dreamweaver 21. So fairly new with that, and just to kind of let you know, if your version is pretty close to this, it's all going to work pretty much the same, especially for the things we're doing today. But some of the options maybe look a little bit different, but don't worry about that too much. We'll be able to talk our way through that as we work through this course. So here we go. We'll get started. I'm going to go to create new. Alright, and then we have this new document dialog window that comes up here, and we're going to start a new document. I want to have HTML selected, and for the title I'm going to call this index.html, and then I'm going to click create. Alright, so we're in here now. I'm on the split view for this. In the standard option, I chose standard and not developer, just because it gives you kind of the split screen look here. And we'll learn more about this top part later, but for this example, we're going to type our code only down here in the code section, since the first thing we're doing is just trying to remind ourselves some ideas for HTML. To get started, even though we started a new file, the first thing we want to do is go up to the top here into our menus. We have a section here that says Site, and I want to go to New Site. Alright, and this is the first thing you have to do every time that we're starting our work in our class this term, is to create a new site. And it asks me what the site name is here, and I'm going to make this one based off of military academy football teams. So I'm just, and their tradition is called Sing Second. So I'm going to call this site name Sing Second for the site name. Alright, and then it asks me what local site folder I want to use. You can create one from new. I put on my desktop this folder on here that says HTML practice. I created that folder earlier with the intent that I'm going to put my stuff in here, all my work for this term into this folder. And my first folder I have in here is my intro folder, because this is my intro to HTML. So I'm going to, and inside my intro folder I've made a images folder in there already, and that's where I'm going to put my pictures. Alright, so I'm going to select my intro folder, and I'm going to click select folder. And so here it should have my site name, and then down here it says local site folder, and it has my directory tree in there, and it's going to save it into my intro folder. Alright, then I'll click save. That's kind of the first thing that you want to make sure that you do. Then I will go to File, and save as, and this is in HTML, and you'll notice up here then it puts it in the correct folder here for me, but I do want to call this index.html. Alright, and then I'm going to click save. Alright, so once you do that, alright, up here it says index.html. Cool. And it's going to start off my main headings for me on here. For those of you who had me for just plain HTML and CSS, you remember we used to have to type all of this information in. It gives us a little starting point in here for Dreamweaver, which is kind of handy. So for the title on here where it says index.html, I'm going to change that to Seeing Second for this demonstration. And the title is when you open this up in a browser, the little tab has the title on it. That's how you add the code for that. Alright. I'm also, actually that's all I'm going to do for that first part. We'll talk about the CSS here in a little bit. Okay, so there's that. Then I have the body section here. Alright, you can think of your HTML as two main sections. Alright, it's like the head section, which is kind of your title stuff and the behind the scenes kind of work, and then you have the body section, which is going to have all of your elements that are viewable for the web page. So here's the body section, and I'm going to put smaller sections into this. Alright, so the first one I'm going to put in here is the header, and I use a less than and greater than sign to bracket that off. Alright, so that's the header. Alright, and then down here I always have to close it, so I'm going to close the header. So you'll notice up here we have a HTML and we close the HTML, and then there's a head section and I close the head section. Alright, then here is the body section, and then in here I have the header and all of that stuff in there. Alright, it's kind of up to you how you want to have your returns for this. I kind of like to have mine all on the left hand side. This is just my preference because it's easier for me to find things, and then I put a space in between each section. So in here is the header, and this is going to be the top part of my web page. Alright, after the header I'm gonna put in a section for a navigation, and so I'll put my left in, or my less than and greater than sign, and I'm going to type in nav. Alright, that's the command we use to separate our navigation menu with our hyperlinks and those things in there. Okay, so I got those there, and this is still inside that same body section. Alright, we have a header, we have the navigation, and then we're going to have a, oh, and I need to close that. That's why that's acting weird. Alright, so there's the nav. Alright, then here I can go with a section. And then I'm going to close the section right down here. Alright, now inside the section, we're going to further divide that up into articles. Alright, so I put in an article tag, and then I'm going to close the article tag. Alright, and so in this one here I think we're probably going to have about 3 articles. Alright, now as you'll learn later, we'll be doing a various amount of layouts for our web page. This is just a real simple one to get us kind of started to where we can make something that looks kind of cool and fits a wide variety of screens, and is just a simple one to learn. So we got our 3 articles inside the section. Okay, and then after the article, then after the articles in the section, then down here underneath that we're gonna put in our last segment, which is footer. Alright, that's how we type that. Alright, and then down here we have the closing of the body, and then we have the closing of the HTML. So that's going to be our very simple I guess template, if you will, or structure, if you will, for this web page. Alright, now we're going to start adding some code into this, some actual real code that's going to show up. So up here in the header, this is going to be the top part of our web page, you know, where we have the text for the top of the page. And we're going to put a tag in this, which is an H1. Alright, this is like our headline here, and we're going to close it with a /H1. So notice here we have, like when we opened up header, we have header in brackets, and then we close it with a / header inside the brackets. So here we're going to follow those same rules. H1 in brackets opens it, /H1 in brackets closes it. Alright, and in here I'm going to call this sing second football. Alright, because each of the military academies, when they play each other, the winning team gets to sing their song second at the end of the game. It's part of a victory. So that's our headline, and you'll notice up here it starts. This isn't an exact preview of what our web page looks like. Actually, if I can go here to save, alright, and if I go to File and Real-Time Preview, and I can select Google Chrome and double check, make sure everything is saved in here. And I'm not really sure why this is doing this here right now like this. They are all saved. But what I can do is if I go to my HTML practice folder where I have this saved, and I double click on this, or you can right click on this and open with whatever you want. I'm going to select Google Chrome just because I use that browser more often. Then I can refresh this in here, and it's going to have this updated. Okay, so but it will look close in this little design view up here, but it's not always going to be 100% accurate. So I like to have my web page in a browser handy to where I can see how that's looking as I create the web page. So this is here with the sing second. Alright, and then in that same section I'm going to put some smaller text in there. Alright, and I'm going to use a paragraph tag. So in here I'm going to type in a letter P, and then I'm going to use a /P. And these are lowercase, so you know, make sure you follow kind of the same capitalization rules. And in here I'm going to type in Military Academy Football. Alright, now it doesn't look very special in here right now. This here, it's not that great of a looking web page. But we're just going to get all the information in here first, and then we're going to make it look nice at the end. So that's the header section. We're done with that. And now we're going to go into the nav section. Okay, so in here, we're going to go ahead and use some tags with this. And if we want to use a hyperlink, we're going to use an A tag. Alright, so I have an A and a /A, and the A tag is going to be a little bit different in this one here, and here's how it'll work. Use A space href equals, and then quotation marks, and you put in the URL or what the name of the link is that you want to go to. Alright, this example we're going to have is only one page long, so these links aren't going to work, but this is just how you would put it in there. And index.html, I would put the name of the file that is in my web page folder. So in this case, where I went through and I created this intro folder on here, and that's where I define my site to. As long as I have those web pages saved in that same folder, then I can just call it index.html on here, and it'll know that it's in the same folder. Alright, so I have index.html and the closing of the A tag, and then here I'm going to put the text where that's going to show up, and you can see on here where that looks like a link. If I clicked on this link, it's just going to take me right back to this index.html because that's the name of this web page. Now what I'm going to do is, to save a little bit of time, I'm going to copy that. I highlighted it and copied it with Control-C, and then I'm going to Control-V to paste that. And I'm just going to put in 3 more of those, and just as a space holder, I'm going to type in page 2 instead of index for the second link. Then I'm going to go page 3, and if I had multiple pages here, I would change this to whatever those were saved as. So if one of them was contact, my contact page, then I would have contact.html and so forth. Then here I'm going to change this text here to match. So I'll put page 2 right here, page 3, and page 4. Alright, so here's our links on here for our navigation menu. Not too bad, not too bad. If I want to go back here to my browser and click refresh, then I can see these. And if I click the home, that's working because it's keeping me on my index.html. But if I click on this, it's going to say couldn't be accessed because I don't have those pages created yet. Alright, but that tells you that those links do in fact work. Alright. If I wanted those to link to a page just on a already created page that somebody else made on the internet, instead of just typing in page2.html or whatever the link is here, then I would use the whole URL, like http://www. This is the name of a page.com, or whatever. And then if I clicked on that, it would take me to that. But since these are links, these are internal links here from my site, I don't have to use the whole URLs on there. Okay, so we got the navigation menu done. Now we're in here for the article. Alright, and in the article, I'm going to put in a heading in here, an H1, like I did up for the top part. And I'm going to close the H1. And the first team I'm going to mention on here are the Air Force Falcons. Alright, so I'm typing in Falcons, and that should be pretty good. Then underneath that, I want to put in a picture. Alright, now the way that the pictures work for this, I'm going to go back to this folder that I was showing you earlier that I created, and I told you that I had an images folder in there that I added. I put some pictures in there already that I downloaded from the internet. Alright, now I didn't just download some random pictures from Google Images because that would be illegal. I got these pictures from a site called Pixabay, Pixabay.com, and these are free use pictures where no credit is required to the users, and I could use these images for commercial value. Pixabay.com is a great site, and so is Unsplash.com. I highly recommend those pages if you're looking for some high quality images for your school projects, or even just for a job. Hopefully you have the means to take your own great photographs, but sometimes you need to find some other pictures, and maybe your library of personal photographs is limited, or your assets are limited. So in this case, I found these pictures that all worked well from this site where it's perfectly legal for me to use those, and so I have them in here. So I saved them into this folder. I did rename them so that way they were going to be easier to remember. Okay, and they're inside my images folder, which is where my index is that I created for my Dreamweaver file. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. If not, shoot me a message and I can kind of explain that better or walk you through it. So H1 Falcons, now underneath that I want to put in a picture in there. Alright, so here's what I would do to add an image. Surprise, we're using our brackets again, our less than and greater than. I'm calling them brackets, but it's your less than and greater than sign. And I want to put in a IMG tag, and then I need to give this a class. So after IMG, but still in those brackets, I'm going to put a space. I'll type class equals photograph, because I'm going to need to do things to those later, and it's easy if I label them as a class, and we'll talk more about that later. And then I need to give the link of where that is saved. So src is equal to, and quotation marks, and since it's in my images folder, I'm going to put images / Air Force football.jpg, which is the name of it. And the cool thing with Dreamweaver, when I start typing that in, it gives me a little preview here, just so it's like, yep, that's exactly the picture I was talking about. That's a pretty cool feature with Adobe Dreamweaver. Then I can go alt equals, and this is like the text that would show up if I had a broken link. Alright, and here I'm going to type in image for Air Force football. Alright, and there's our picture. So on here you'll see it says image for Air Force football. It's showing it as a broken link on here. Like I said, sometimes on here this doesn't show the way it's supposed to, right? But then I go here to my browser and I refresh, and it's a huge picture. And you're probably thinking, holy cow, why do we need that picture that big? Like I said, we'll make it all look nice at the end. Alright, our first job is to put in all the information. Then the second job is to go back and clean it up. So there is that. Inside this first article, we have our image, okay? And then after that, I'm going to put in some text. Alright, so I'm going to put in a paragraph tag like we did above. And now you're probably starting to understand the pattern of this. And I'm just going to type in the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. And I think what I will do is I'm going to just kind of paste that in. A couple of times. Alright. So now that I have that line in there, I think actually what I'll do, just to make this have a fair amount of text in there so we can kind of see what's happening, you know. So I'll paste. Alright. So we have that text in there. This is just a placeholder, and I'll do this a lot of times before I start making my web page. Fill it in just kind of with space fillers to see what it would look like, or if I'm showing somebody a template, so they kind of have an idea of what it would look like. So that looks pretty good for our first section. After that, what I want to do is after that article, but before the next article, then I'm going to put in HR, alright, which is our horizontal rule. We have this line that goes across, and that's going to kind of separate out some of these things for me. Okay, so that's our first article. Now is an easy part. Okay, I'm going to highlight and copy all of this stuff that I typed in here for the first article, and I'm going to go to my second article, and I'm going to paste it in there with Control V. Alright, and then I'm just going to make a few little changes. For Falcons, I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to type in Black Knights. For the photograph, this one is a different name. This one is going to be armyfootball.jpg. All right, and then it's showing me right there. And then that works nicely. And then this here is image for, I'm going to change Air Force to Army football. All right, and then after that article, I'm going to put in another one of those HRs. All right, looks pretty good. Then we'll go down here to our last article, our last of the 3 articles. I'm going to paste that in there. I'm going to switch Falcons on this one to midshipmen, and I'm going to switch Air Force football for the image to Navy football, and on here image for Navy football. All right. Down here I'm not going to put a H1 after that because this is our last article in our last section, so it's not really necessary. Sometimes it might be, but in this I think it'll be better if I don't. But if you disagree with me, you can put in a HR there at the end if you want to. We can always go back and change it. Okay. Let's look at, you'll notice over here on the bottom right hand corner we have this DOM section. Every time we add something new over here, it adds it over here, and I haven't been trying to draw too much attention to that. For right now, just be aware that it is doing that, and we'll talk more about that as we get into the ins and outs of Dreamweaver and all of the functions. Alright, so here we are to the footer section on this, and for the footer, you know, this isn't going to be anything too fancy, but I'm going to put in a paragraph in here, a paragraph tag. Alright, and I'm going to put in here, this website was created by, and you can put your name in there. I'm just going to put me for this. So you can put your name. And then what I want to do is I'm going to put in a EM tag that is inside there, which is emphasized, which means it's going to be like italics or slanty writing. And I'm going to put in here a entity code, which is like a symbol. I'm going to use this and copy semicolon just to kind of make it look nice on there, make it look a little bit professional, even though this isn't really copyrighted, but just so you can see how to do it. And then after that I'm going to put in 2020. Alright, so I'm going to Control S, I'm going to save that, or you can go up here and you can go to save, or you can go to file and save all. Alright, and then if I go here to my web page and take a look, Falcons, here's my text, here's my horizontal line, Black Knights, here's my picture, here's my text, here's my horizontal line, midshipman, picture, text, and there's no horizontal line, that's okay. And then I have my, this website was created by me, and copyright 2020. And you can tell that the 2020 is in our italics styled font on there. Alright, so this is the first part that we had to do for our web page. Now if I was telling you if this is your first experience and you're thinking, my gosh, that is the most unprofessional looking piece of garbage I've ever seen, you would be correct. It does look terrible. But this is just the HTML. Alright, the HTML is the code, it's the simple code. The way we really make our web page stand out is by creating our CSS, alright, our style sheets. This is where web design gets fun. You want to do everything possible with HTML first, alright, and just get everything on there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is in this top right hand corner over here, we have these local files, and we have this thing that says CSS Designer. Okay, if I click on that tab, and I want to add a new CSS source. So up here it says sources. I'm going to add a new one right here. All right, and I'm going to click add a new one, and I have some options. What I would encourage you to do is create a new CSS file. I would encourage that way, unless you already have one made, you know. But this is our first lesson, so I doubt you have. So I'm going to select create a new CSS file. All right, and then add it as, and I want to add it as a link. And in here I'm going to choose browse to make sure that I'm in my intro file where I have that. Okay, that's good. And I'm going to call this styles.css. All right, and the name of it is styles.css. I'm going to click save, and then it's going to show me here, yep, I want it as styles.css, and I want it as a link, and I'm going to click OK. Alright, now up here we will notice, if I go to my files here, I have my index and I have my styles on this, and if I double click on that, it takes me to my styles. I'm going to go back to my index view here, but here are these two things on here. All right, and so here this is the file here, and after I did that, you'll notice here in the head section of our HTML, it adds this link href equals styles.css, rel equals style sheet, type equals text / CSS. That means that this page is going to follow the style sheet rules that are found on that document. Alright, so let's go and look at this here, and we have this styles.css, and it puts this character set up at the top, UTF-8, which is like the characters and the letter styles and everything that we use for this. And now I'm ready to start adding rules for my web page. Okay, everybody kind of has their own style or their own order they like to go through this, but basically what we're going to do is we're going to define our elements here and say what rules we want in those elements. So remember, we had the body section, so I'm going to give some rules to all of my code that's in the body. So I type in body, and then I use these fancy brackets, those fancy schmancy brackets. I'm going to type in there, and the first thing I'm going to type in is background hyphen color, which is a characteristic, and then I'm going to put in a colon, and I'm going to define the background color. I could do it with the color name. I can use different ways to do this, but my favorite way is to use the hex value. Some of you who are in my class are in here from more of a graphic design background, so you're going to be super familiar with this. You know that each color has their own hex value, and that allows you to pick an exact type of color. So I'm going to use the pound sign here, and then I'm going to go 0C 2E 4D and get this kind of darkish blue on here for the theme, and it shows you in there what it looks like, and that is just a super awesome feature for this. Then I'm going to put in a semicolon, and I'm going to press enter. Alright, I want it still to be adding more to this, so this is going to be inside those same fancy smancy brackets, just on the next line down. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to type in margin hyphen left colon, and I'm going to put in 15% with a semicolon. And then I'm going to go with a width colon of 70% semicolon. Alright, so I'm going to save this. Alright, you notice it updates in here. I'm going to refresh my page here, and sometimes it Just takes a while, longer than others. I'm not really sure what the deal is for this. But you'll notice it's in there, and maybe if it's, let me go File, Save All. Okay, and now it's showing up in here. So with this page, you'll notice when the page is maximum size, the pictures aren't following their own rules, so kind of ignore the pictures, or they're following their own rules right now. But if we look at the text box, this is going to be 70% of the width, and it's always going to have 15% of the page on both sides. So if I shrink this down and you look at that text, see, it's always kind of nice and orderly in there, right? Looks pretty good. All right, so that's the first thing we wanted to do with this styles on here. Okay, now the next thing we need to do is we want to go to make some rules for the section. All right, so that's closed up. I'm going to type in section. All right, I'm going to put in my fancy brackets in here, and in here the first thing I'm going to put in is going to be background hyphen color. All right, and I have the colon in there, and I'm going to put in a pound sign, and I'm going to put in 6 lowercase f's, which is white. Okay, so then I will put in my semicolon, and that's actually all I'm going to do with the section in there, because that's just what I want it to look like. So I'll go File, Save All. Okay, get all that saved, and when I update it on here, we'll notice I now have kind of a white background behind the body part of this. All right, so now it's starting to come together and look a little bit more presentable. Still doesn't look very good, but it's an improvement. Oh, I have a thing on here. This has been modified outside. Yeah. All right. So there we have that. Okay. Now, let me make sure we're good here. Looks like it. All right. So then, after that, let's see. The next thing we'll just start from the top and kind of work our way down. So going in here to Styles. All right. This one that I want to use is going to be the header. So if we're going from the top, so header, fancy brackets. All right. I'm going to give this a background color of I'll go with the same white, I suppose. Alright, and then with this one though, I'm going to change the width of this. No, actually we should be okay with it like this. Background color of white, and yeah, I think that'll look pretty good. Alright, so if I save all, and I'm looking in here, alright, I have this section up here. Alright, it's starting to be pretty good. Alright, now I'm going to make a rule for the header on this, but not just the header. This is going to be for the for the H1 of this, I think. Yeah, it should be good. Header H1. And so this is going to only affect the H1 that is in the header, this thing second up here. And I will put in here display inline, and that's going to help with the spacing a little bit. I'm going to use font family, and just for something different to look at, we're going to use impact. Most of your design teachers are going to probably make fun of you if you use impact, but for this, I think it'll be okay. For this, it's kind of a sporty title. Then underneath that, I'm going to use font hyphen size colon, and I'm going to go with 72 pixels semicolon. And I'm trying to think. I will also give this text a color, so I'll type in color colon, and I'll use # 8B0000 semicolon, and that's going to be kind of a deep red on there. So file, save all. Alright, and here we have this typeface up there. Looks pretty good, and yeah, I think that'll work. That'll work pretty well. I don't know. I may take out this military academy football actually. I might index source code on here. I think I might just have it just say sing second and take out this paragraph. Yeah, I think that'll be good. Yeah, I think that'll work. All right. So we have that going. Looks decent. Looking better. Looking better. All right, and then I'll go back to my styles.css. And so really I probably could have just had all of this up here in the header, but I may make some changes to that later. So right now I think we're still okay. Then, actually, you know what? I don't know. Kind of wishy-washy on this all of a sudden. I am going to leave this paragraph in here. I'm going to leave that right there after all. I apologize about that. Alright, so yeah, down here now I'm going to go header and paragraph with a fancy bracket, and in here I'm going to type in color pound 8B0000 and have it be that same red as the top, and then a semicolon. Then in here I can go font hyphen family Helvetica, and I can go font hyphen weight colon, and I can make that be bold. And don't forget those semicolons at the end. So file, save all. Let's see how that's looking. Yeah, looking a little better. And this thing here, man. Okay. So that looks pretty good, I think, for the header section on our web page right here. Next thing I'm going to do on here, I think I'll change the images. Those have been kind of bothering me. So since those images in our code, we gave them all a class and called them photograph. So I'm going to make a rule for everything that has a class called photograph. So I'll go in here to my styles, and so I'll start with a period in photograph because that's how you identify your classes with this. And I'll put in my fancy bracket. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to type in width is 100%. Okay, so if I save all that and I click refresh on my browser, see now this is looking a lot better. These pictures are 100%, and it's 100% of the parent container. Alright, so since this section was 70%, that means these are 100% of 70%, which means it's always going to fit in there. Okay, so that and that works with all of those. And you start to get that kind of digital storytelling style that's kind of popular in a lot of web pages, where the image goes the width there, and then it's got the text underneath it. So it's an effective design, and it looks clean, and it's easy for beginners. So all those photographs are 100% width. Let's see, also on here I want to change my H1s and make those look a little more consistent with the rest of the design. So I'm going to put in my H1 on here with my fancy brackets. I'm going to type in font family. I'll use Helvetica just to make it match. Font hyphen weight is going to be bold, just like the others. And then the color is going to be £. I'm going to go with that 0C2 E4D to be that blue that we have as the background here to kind of tie it in. Give it a little red, white, and blue kind of patriotic look to it. So that'll look pretty sharp, I think. So let's save all. Refresh this. Okay, now we got this sans serif font, or the sans serif typeface in here that kind of matches this up here. So I think it's starting to look a little bit better, And let's go back to our code here and look in our CSS code. And I'm going to kind of raise this up a little bit. And let's see, these links up here. We're going to learn so many ways to make better looking navigation menus, but just for this one, to make it simple, I'm going to style this, but it's going to be the simplest way ever. And don't worry, we'll do some things that are really impressive with this later. But I'm going to do this with font hyphen family Helvetica. I'm going to change the color of them to £FFF semicolon to make them white. And I also want to get rid of that underline to make it look, a little bit cleaner. So I could do a text hyphen decoration colon none semicolon. Alright, here's this. That looks pretty good. File, save all, look in here, refresh this, and now when I scroll up to the top, it doesn't look great, but it's a whole lot better than what it did look like, and it does all fit in here. So like, no matter if this is a full-size browser to a tablet to a mobile device, it's functionable, right? And knowing that this is the simplest thing we'll do in this class, I think you'll be happy with where we're going with this. Then after that, we can put in some code for the footer. Alright, so here's the footer. I'm going to use text align center. So this is how I would make things in that section centered. And since that's down at the very bottom and it's in the blue area, and I'm going to keep that area blue, I'm going to change the color to £FFFFFF semicolon. Alright. Save all. Go here. Refresh. And look down here. That's centered and it looks pretty nice. Alright. So this is our first web. For some of you, this may be the first page you've ever made in your entire life. Alright. And if you were intimidated at all by HTML to start off with, you know, we did go through this pretty fast, but you can look through here, through our source code, and you can understand, hey, this is a doc type HTML. Dreamweaver puts those first tags in there for us, and then up here in the head section, I just need to give it a title, and then when I add my CSS, it's going to do that in there automatically for me. And then here in the body section, I could put whatever I want to, but we decided to put in a header, a navigation section, a section with 3 articles. So if I wanted to add a 4th article, that'd be super easy, right? Underneath this, I would just put in a HR, and then I would put in another article with another H1, and I would just follow this same pattern that we had through here, and it's going to be a nice looking web page. And then down here at the footer, that's just information. If I wanted to, I could say contact me if you have questions, or you know, and put a link on there for email, which we'll learn about proper ways to do that later on too. But that's a simple code, right? The vast majority of this code was just the content from the pages. The actual code itself is pretty short, right? And then if we go look at our styles.css, all we had to do was make little rules for each of those elements to follow. And we made one for the body to give the background color, you know, to kind of set it apart, because it looked kind of boring when it was all one color. And then we made some background changes to the header section. We changed the font and the typeface colors. We changed our H1 rules, and we changed our image width so that it always fit, and we had it on there. And with that, that's how we made our first web page. So, you know, again, if you're watching this as part of my class, I've shared with you the resource files with the images for this. And so play around with that, and then when you're done, go through and swap in your own pictures and change your own text to this. Make it something that's interesting to you, and then, you know, kind of make your own very first web page that has content that you are interested in yourself, and see what you can create using these first simple steps. Thanks for watching. I'm real excited to be going through Dreamweaver with you all. I think you're gonna have fun learning how to use this software, and learning different ways to create things with a web page. And I think we're gonna have a lot of fun this term. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next tutorial.